Okay, hello everybody. Today I wanted to make a quick video about what is it or how is it living and studying as a student in a German university. This video is mostly targeted at people that are expats like me. So people who are not really familiar or are kind of curious about how studying in a German university would be like. Maybe you have plans for coming to study here in Germany, or maybe you're just curious. So I don't think I will cover all the different things that you would experience or you need to know about studying in Germany, because there are so many different culture specific or legislation specific things. I will mostly cover some stuff that came to mind as some of the very very useful tips for people that I don't really see being mentioned. So the very first one is something that you will definitely see, but it's good to keep in mind when you start thinking about applying to an university. Keep an eye on this thing that's called numerous clauses or something like that. It's always denoted as NC. So what that basically means is that some courses or some studies will have a specific number of entrants that are possible. That means you are competing with other people, and the people with the best notes, I think, would be the ones that get accepted into the university, and everybody else basically has to try and apply at another university. The other types are the non-NC type of studies. These are usually how, like, you have to understand there is a filtration process in both cases. Like in the NC studies, I see NC folk, non-NC studies, I'm sorry, I see a lot of those engineering based courses or studies have a non-NC type of program, because everybody is basically allowed to enter university, and in the very first couple of semesters you will be tested. Basically, nobody will tell you that, but all the courses will be kind of hard, and you will have to push through, and in a sense this is when exactly all the people that are not really motivated in doing that type of study are filtered out. You will also notice, hopefully you pick the right study for you, you will notice that after the third semester, a lot of those people that you would see, a lot less people from your particular starting year, and that is the reason why. So the second thing, the language requirements. I would say there are possibilities to study in English in Germany. For my particular case, I was a bit surprised, and this is why I left this as a note. You might be surprised as well. For example, I wanted to study computer science, and I was very kind of shocked to see that there is almost, like in Berlin, there is kind of like zero chance to study computer science other than some private universities, or even like a private, how do you call that, institute? It's kind of like a university, but it's also kind of not. So keep in mind, keep informed about that. I also remember, because I also lived in Stuttgart, the case was kind of similar there as well. So you basically have to learn German for, like, they keep their top studies kind of, they're not locked, they are mostly just made comfortable for their own population, right? Because Germans, although almost all or maybe all know English, they are still more comfortable in talking in their own language. Makes sense. And it also makes sense why those studies would be kept at native language. This is mostly for the bachelor's programs. When you go past that into the master's, almost all of them I think are in English. So if you're looking for a master's program, chances are you'll definitely find something in English. So this is something I wanted for you to know in advance, so you can basically start searching. Just Google for a map, maybe or a list that tells you which universities offer your program, in which cities are there English possibilities, are there only German only type of studies, and hopefully you will be able to do this on time. Because planning is mostly like this is the first big milestone or first big issue that you have to kind of conquer is planning when it comes to starting your own studies. So another one, when it comes to the language itself, let's say you have either decided to study in German or you're just studying in English, but you still have to live in Germany and you want to socialize with people and all the things. You want to go buy stuff from the supermarket. So learning the language is key in this case, and a great tip for improving and adapting would be to live with Germans. This is, I would say, it is a 50-50 chance that if you go online and search for an apartment, that you will see an apartment that is only occupied by Germans. So it is very possible. It is not something that they wouldn't really. If you find the right people, nobody will actually try to single you out because you're non-native or something like that. I have personally lived with. So when I moved here at the end of 2014, I stayed by a friend, and the first personal flat that I found was with two other Germans. And then I started university and I found this place that I'm living here, and I again lived with two other Germans. So I didn't even try hard, and I was just mostly looking for a flat, because this is also, particularly for Berlin, this is the hard part, to find a flat. But if you have the chance, really, this is a great opportunity to learn to speak and think in German as much as possible, to learn how to argument, to present your arguments, to learn how people think. Like Germans, they think in their own way, so it's a very specific type of way, and they are not really different types of thinking would not go well directly when confronted with the German type of thinking. And the reason for that is that their language or their type of thinking doesn't always allow for people to be understanding in the way you think, and it is good to kind of learn how they think, and then you will actually understand that they're not really meaning anything bad when they don't really understand you. It's just like the type of thinking kind of accustomed them to not really think in that other way, for example, that you have. So long story short, if you live with Germans while studying, you would definitely make a lot more progress into speaking, understanding, and in general just using the language to your advantage, being socializing, writing your homeworks, talking with colleagues, and all that. What else? So one thing that I really found kind of useful, and I guess it's a minor thing, but it's also good to know. This is the so-called Studienführer in this case, or study tutorial, or kind of like study, how would you call this thing? basically a small booklet that kind of explains how the studies are structured. For example, they will list your modules. It's good. It kind of, for me, it was interesting because I kind of kept them. Just a sec. I kind of kept this list as my progress bar in a sense, and I just whenever I finished a course, I would just put an X mark on it, so I would always kind of have a visual on what I'm doing, how much I did, and it was kind of motivating. But beyond that, you get a lot of explanation of how your studies are structured, what's expected at certain phases throughout the studies, things that you should not miss, and all that. So it is a very useful thing. So whenever you get accepted at the university, just ask them, and they will probably be giving these things out at the very first day. That's how I got mine. And just get this one, kind of read through it, make a mental map on your programs, so your courses, your progress, and which year goes what. And I think it is a very good way to plan ahead. So what I left here are 2 more tips from what I remember. My mouse froze. Okay. So oh yeah, this is a thing that I personally experienced, and in your case it may be a bit different. For me, doing a technical study that is computer science, there was a lot of work that had to be done, and basically if you didn't keep up with the pace, you would kind of drop out after a couple of months, or maybe like even if you skipped a couple of weeks and didn't really put the enormous effort to kind of catch up afterwards, you would definitely not make it through that semester's courses or whatever was that you skipped. So my advice would be to kind of treat the study as kind of like a work. What I would do is basically I would go to the lectures in the morning, and then I would go have lunch, maybe do some more lectures. You also have exercises. If I didn't have exercise, I would basically go back home here, or you can just go to the computer rooms at the university or study rooms, and I would basically continue working on the lectures that I just had, just start reading and annotating those, or I would continue working on some homework that I had, and this would go until kind of like roughly 4, 5, depends on how tired you get, but what I mean is I kind of treated every waking day as a working day where I got to work on my studies, and I got some added flexibility because I could pause at any time, and I could go have a snack or meet some friends for an hour, but I could still come back and continue, and I will do that every day. I think even I tried doing it basically through the weekends as well, like also Saturdays and Sundays, but it's not a must. You just have to kind of try to keep up with all the material that you have. Stay updated. Don't leave all the materials at the end, because for example, for a technical study, there is so much information, and one other thing is that the information that you got from the lectures would be applied in the exercises in the same week or maybe the week afterwards, and having read the materials is actually what separated people like me, for example, that went to those exercises and saw the questions that were asked and were able to think on those questions, because they were already piecing, like I was already piecing together the different types of concepts that were introduced, and trying to kind of make sense of it. And there were other people that would kind of like slack and just kind of leave that for some later time, and they would always come to the exercises, and they would basically do nothing. They would just stare at the whiteboard, and they would kind of write down the answers that we got from those exercises, but the answers, they wouldn't really help you if you don't really understand what was talked about before that. So in the end, treating your regular studies or your studies as a regular job is something that will definitely help you have momentum, basically, because it is kind of always about momentum in Germany when it comes to the studies. If you lose the momentum, if you lose this knowledge of what's current and the concepts that are being used today, tomorrow's concepts will just kind of confuse you, and it will get really overwhelming really fast. So if I should summarize that, let's see. Yeah, just try, and if you have free time and you're not working on your studies, or let's see how my roommate, who is who has a PhD in theoretical physics, was talking to me on the very first week when I started studying, and it was like, oh, so you don't have anything in the university right now? And I was like, no, we already took, we had lectures, and we will have some exercises later on this week. And he was very surprised that I'm just chatting with him on the subway on the way to some place in the city. It was like, okay, but if you are, how did he say it? Basically, he was talking like, if you are not, how did he say it? Well, in essence, you should basically study every moment that you can, if you still have some studying left, because that's, at least in our the technical university of Berlin, that's how things got done. And to be honest, I took his advice back then, and I just applied it all the time. And I would say I was surprised or shocked by things that happened at the university a lot less than if I didn't basically try my best to study as much as I can. And the last tip, I'm hoping that this video is not super long, and it is already kind of long. Last tip would be to try to follow the instructions that they give you for the homework. This is something that got me really demotivated at the beginning, because for example, we had what was it? Well, there are multiple examples at the beginning, but I would say, for example, you had to write some sorting algorithm in this case, and they also wanted you to have an output file for the sorted algorithm, where you can basically see how the algorithm, how the list was sorted. And they wanted this file in a folder, and this is basically how the exercise was structured. And 99% of the work is basically learning how a sorting algorithm works, how to program that, how to debug that, and all that. So basically, you could spend 2, maybe even 3 days at the beginning just kind of going through all that, kind of fighting the programming language and all that. And just because you get so overwhelmed, you could kind of forget that you had to put the output file in a folder. And when you hand in your assignment, they would basically, well, from your perspective, you did very well, right? You've pushed so much it was a constant battle, and there was a lot of struggle, but you still managed to learn the sorting algorithm, you still managed to implement it. You've seen the program running, and it was doing what it was supposed to do. It was such an achievement in your eyes, but then you get your note and you get like B minus, and it's very, very demotivating, because you were planning in your head, okay, I aced this exercise, and I aced the other one as well, and I don't know, like basically, because a lot of your studies are, a lot of your courses are portfolio based, you basically are getting points for those exercises, so you're basically counting all those perfect scores or almost perfect scores, and kind of already building a mental map, and kind of like planning for the future exercises, on like tracking your progress, and then you start suddenly getting those super bad notes, and it is very demotivating. And the reason for the bad notes is that because in Germany they really say what, like for example, if it is written in the exercise, it has to be done, and even if it's the smallest thing, as in this example, as putting the output file into a folder, this is considered a mistake, and they would basically grade down from your theoretically perfect score, and it wouldn't really even matter. For example, if you had 2 or 3 different very small mistakes, your grade could easily go way under the B rating. I think that is the American scale, right? So keep an eye on that, and it's a thing that you would kind of struggle at the beginning. At least I know I struggled. I'm a logical person. It was still kind of a shock to me at the beginning. So basically, you have to be very punctual about every little thing they have on the list, and just kind of cross that note on the list after it is done, and always keep the list in sight, and you're only done when the whole list is done. Okay, this is the only thing you have to kind of master, but it is very important for your own sake, for your own like mental sake. It is crucial. So I hope you've learned some very useful things, and I hope that with these tips you would have less trouble navigating through your studies in Germany. I must say, this is information from my own perspective and from things I've seen from other people, but it's not a universal truth. So maybe some things are a bit different for other places in Germany. This is mostly a perspective from a person who has lived in Berlin and a bit of time in Stuttgart. Yeah, this is all, and if you liked or if you found this video useful, maybe consider liking it, and if you have if you are interested in learning a bit more about studying in Germany, be sure to follow this channel, as I will upload other videos as well, talking about how studying in Germany is like, and what are some of the most important things I learned from here, some things to avoid, and so on. So thank you very much for your time, and I will see you next time.